Okay, so I don't have a gavel, but I'll knock down here. So anyway, call this meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee meeting to order. And it looks like we'll just do roll call first, so thank you.
Mr. Littleton?
Here.
Ms. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Peterson?
Present.
Mr. Constant? Mr.
He
Dunbar?
texted he can't make it.
Here.
Ms. Salatol?
Here.
We don't have a this time.
Sorry, what for? Okay. And we have other people around the room that need to be introduced. So if we can start with, thanks. Well, so can we get Dean, just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Gates in the council.
Go around this table.
Mandy Honest, Clerk's Office?
Nick Holtman here on behalf of Chip Health.
Ryan Yale, Planning Department.
Chris Shooting, also Economic Community Development.
Jed Smith, Anto.
Armando Gonzalez, AMG Concentrates.
Sean Brown, Planning.
Dan Levine. Kim Cole, the West Company. Dr. Jennifer Walsh at Gray with Gray Chiropractic Health Clinic.
Dr. Charlie Gray with Gray Chiropractic Health Clinic.
Chris Jenner from Alaska Spring Performance.
Mandy Boland with Top LLC.
Big training, just a constituent.
Just a constituent, yes. All righty, thank you. Okay, well, we have at the top of our list Tip Top. So is there anybody that wants to kind of introduce that?
Yeah, I can do that.
But-
No,
well, I'm just
you can do
talking
that, I'm
from,
sorry.
either Mandy or Ryan or. how
I'll
do
go
you-
ahead and do the licensing first.
Okay, thank you.
So for Tip Top, all of the licensing conditions were addressed in their operating plan. There were no taxes, fees, or fines found due by any of the licensees or affiliates. They did address all of the safety and security requirements in their operating plan as well. There were no additional conditions recommended for the license. The clerk's office did receive a notice from AMCO about the board meeting, and I made sure you guys saw
Yeah.
that too, so just wanted to make sure you guys.
Yeah, we already arranged it.
Good, okay.
Okay, and any, Ryan?
So thank you, Madam Chair. So Tip Top LLC is applying for a special use permit for a marijuana retail sales establishment to total approximately 3,750 square feet of space within an existing commercial use building. Proposed facilities within a B2B district, so these in a downtown district, generally located northwest of the intersection of East Fifth Avenue and Cordova Street. The proposed hours of operation are Sunday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. The applicant has submitted a signed memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Community Council. There is a residence, or two residences located on the second floor of the existing building. Access to the retail area from this residence is prohibited and shall be walled off. In accordance with municipal code, any residents of this space will need to be caretakers of the marijuana establishment. This is addressed in condition 7, and I've also placed some suggested amendments to condition 7 at the request of Mr. Wellington to kind of tighten up that language a little bit.
Where is that?
I passed it around. It should be to your right. The application and supporting documents show a business that has been deemed compatible with surrounding land uses. The planning department recommends approval of special land use permit subject to conditions as stated in the staff report. Thank you.
So, Ryan, I have a question then on that. So the second floor is actually, will be occupied, but it will be by the owners, the caretakers? Okay.
Correct. Yeah, there's a requirement in code that if there's a residence on site, that it can only be occupied by a caretaker of the marijuana establishment. And the caretaker can be a licensee, an affiliate, or an employee that has a valid marijuana handler's permit card.
Hey, can I ask, what's the description of an affiliate? Just curious.
I don't know if we have a definition of that in Title 21, but
Because the guys who are currently living there own a CBD and marijuana production place that I would do business with.
Are they
so
listed on your license as one of the people?
No, because I didn't have a good definition for affiliate. Is affiliate just someone with an interest in the license, or is it someone I do business with?
I believe it'd be somebody who has an interest in the license. Or
Or an
it could
employee.
be an employee, so if they have some function with your business.
Yeah, and that's what they're planning to do, is work hours there over the weekend. But I saw affiliate and I thought, if I do business with them, does that make them an affiliate?
Dean comment maybe?
Well, actually, I think that Miss Honest, she's
Okay.
hooked with that term affiliate and how it works for the state. Could you describe that?
So they have a definition, and they've updated it recently with some of their management and all of that, but it's somebody that has either a financial interest in the business, is a licensee or affiliate, somebody that is named on the license as an owner, or somebody that is involved in the business as either an employee or is somehow in contract with the business.
Right, so that was the in contract. So my question is a vendor an affiliate? And so it'd be good to know, because then I wouldn't have to do anything different than I'm doing now.
That might be something we need to look at. That might be something we need to look at with our code.
Okay,
Seems reasonable.
so we need some clarification on that. Yes.
Yes, I put up the code definition for affiliate. That's a defined term. It says in this chapter 1080, affiliate means a person that directly or indirectly through one or more intermediaries controls or is controlled by or is under common control with a partnership, limited liability company, or corporation subject to this chapter. Directly or indirectly through one or more intermediaries that has some kind of control or is controlled by.
So I would say a vendor does not meet definition then.
Doesn't sound like it
No.
meets the control.
Right.
part.
Sounds like you need to hire him part-time.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
No, I was had the same question that Kristen.
I think we can make recommendations, so kind of have people review this and say, do we recommend this an amendment for that to be made in our meeting?
Okay,
And
so.
the committee could say, yeah, then when it's before, we can say the committee, or not.
Okay, yeah, so, then what is the will of this body then in terms of adding this amendment? or
So I
making
move to
this amendment?
support this amendment. that
Can we-
clarifies things.
Yeah.
And we can discuss, and also this advisory comment, I think is kind of one package, one amendment. We could
Yeah.
probably treat it as one amendment.
Okay. And are we dealing with any of this tomorrow at the work session? Okay, that's not this, so, okay.
So, I'll
It would have to be
John's motion.
Tuesday. Okay, all right then, looks like, if there's any objection, unless there's any objection, we'll have to bring this up on Tuesday. Ryan,
And
please.
Madam Chair, just from a processing standpoint, I think in the 2 weeks ago, we had some confusion when a floor amendment was being put through the administrative PACE process rather than from the assembly. So with these, I'm happy to draft the floor amendment, but then what I'll do is I'll send them on to Dean and CC Mr. Weldon on there, just so that you guys are aware, so it's coming from you. But I'm happy to draft that document for you.
Okay.
You should CC, Crystal.
Crystal, okay.
Yeah, just,
Co-chair.
yeah, that'd be great, so, okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so,
So I have a comment.
okay, and then let's just, look at comments and actually, do we want to give Mr. Coleman an opportunity to just kind of talk about any of this at this point, or do you want to go straight into questions, comments, and let him comment on what you're commenting on?
You can also comment. But generally, because this gives an generally with these meetings, opportunity for assembly members to talk about it, because we can't talk to more than two of each other, because open meetings laws. So generally the meetings, that's kind of like the priority here, but then you'll get a chance by waving, or anyone in the audience. We really is fairly open. But so if I say something, you go, oh, I have something to add, you raise your hand, and Crystal will point to you, and then you can speak, and so on. This
Thank
gives
you.
you more, but just because we can't hang out in the parking lot and talk about it together, it's got to be open for everyone. So I did have.
Okay, go ahead then.
And so these are, I think we took care of most of them on that thing, but I was just curious, on your mailing addresses going through, you had a couple. You had Elmer Court, Court, Kissy Court, you have your P.O. box, and Kissy Court and Elmer seem to be interchangeable.
So I moved from Kissy to Elmridge.
Okay, so Kissy's not the current
Correct.
address, it was a change,
Yeah.
okay, so you wanna be careful on some of that and make sure it's all right, because you have to come back to us for certain kinds of changes, and you don't wanna go through that hassle if you take care of it now, and I'm not sure if it's an issue here.
Contact information, no, we just need to be updated.
What is the process for updating?
You just let me know, send me an email and say this is the updated contact information, and we'll get that updated for you.
Did I?
Anything else? Okay, I think you're still on. then,
Okay.
Mr. Moore.
So there was some opposing comments at the very end of the packet. You have got those? Go all the way to the back.
Okay, I see.
Had you gotten those before?
I have not.
No. I think the gist of them is no. Too many, too close. But then
Yeah,
your report-
that's from Dennis Levy, and Dennis came down to the community council also and raised that concern. And he doesn't have any problem with the existing licenses, and I'm speaking for him here, but this is what he said at the council. With the existing licenses, he actually believes they've improved the safety in the neighborhood, because that has been historically a little bit of a rough area. He didn't like the idea of 3 in a row. He thought it would be better served if we put in some sort of grocery store or something, which I have no expertise in doing that, so I really wasn't interested in doing it. Then his next objection was 3 cash businesses in a row would be a good tempting for an armed robbery. And I didn't know what to say to that, because then we shouldn't open banks. So I tried to address his concerns. Nobody else in the community council had really any problem about it. And so I think that's the one individual who these are coming from. At the community council meeting, he brought a list of 21 people. He said none of them could get there. I looked up every one of them. They were all LLCs or businesses that he actually personally owned. So I think I have one person who's unhappy.
Okay, well, it's good to reach out to people, though.
Yeah, actually,
Kinda sounds like
we
you-
chat and we're friendly, actually, so, yeah. What was the date? Was it a recent one, or was it, when did he submit that?
It says received May
This
3rd.
responds to the city's notice, not the state, so they'd be relatively recent. I don't see that. The date is, May 3rd, April 25th, and an emailed one from May 6th. So, anyway, it's something to.
Yeah, and I'll reach out to him again.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, we have said all along that we weren't going to limit the number of licenses. We weren't going to put a maximum number out there because we don't want to create a secondary market. I understand people giving, you know, their opinions about the number of retail establishments we have in downtown Anchorage. And, you know, it's a competition situation. You know, the person who does the best job will probably win out over the long haul. But, you know, it's kind of like gas stations setting up across the street from each other. You know, people, you'd think it doesn't make sense, but in reality, in the business world, actually it does. And so the fact that there's 3 of them right next to each other might actually help attract additional customers to all of the businesses.
Yeah. I've actually looked at clusters.
Thank you. So, Mr. Dunlap.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just say real quickly, then you can make your comments. I mean, it's also a situation that we have created, right? Because of our separation of businesses, there are relatively few places you can put these businesses. It appears, and it's actually kind of makes sense to be clustered, because if one fits those criteria, then the next door one probably does too. And where are there places that fit these criteria with retail space? A lot of it's downtown, and no parking requirements. We have the most densely populated district in the whole city, and we've yet to see one marijuana establishment. And it's because we set these 500-foot distances from churches and schools and other things, and basically prohibited in the vast majority. So, you know, again, if we want to look for somebody to blame for the clusters, it's not just the forces of the market, it's also the regulatory system we set up.
Sure.
Ms. Soltel?
Thank you. I would say too, I'm really happy that the idea of this clustering was taken up at the community council level. I think that's really probably the best place that discussion needs to happen, where you're going to have a bunch of residents discussing the pros and cons of that. And that's where I put the stock in it, that they looked at it and they're still okay with it, and they're addressing their own concerns.
One very quick thing, because there's only one downtown representative who's not here. I think I should mention that this is pushing into an area sort of the eastern downtown, moving towards Fairview, not quite to Fairview, but a place where we want to see more economic development. And we have a presentation from Ryan that showed that when marijuana businesses move in, they dramatically spruce up the building and the retail space. And so the more we can get active, well-constructed businesses pushing into eastern downtown, the better. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments?
Just a minute, so we got a letter from APCO saying please show up. Did you get that?
Yes. I was in China for the last one. But I spoke to them and they're fine. I'll be up there in July.
So, Mr. Coleman, you have this floor.
Oh, I was just going to adjust the clustering. I actually think it's beneficial. Like if you're in Asia and you want to buy sunglasses, you go to the shop at the street and there's 100 shops where you can buy sunglasses. In big cities, you go to a restaurant row and you pick your restaurants out. We're going to differentiate ourselves from the other two vendors, and I want it to be a net gain for everybody and the neighborhood to attract a different clientele down there. It is a tough part of town. You know, we operated Indigo there for over 10 years, and it was pretty rough, and it was hard to get people to come down and spend money. And to your point, yeah, the only viable business down there is this, and it's going to encourage me to spend $300,000 into that building to fix up the neighborhood.
I just want to note the additional irony that we keep putting marijuana retail establishments directly across from the FBI building.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So yeah, we won't have to worry about armed robbery. We'll have the FBI right there.
Thank you. So, public comment time just for this specifically.
Generally, you can.
Well, any other comments?
We'll have a public hearing.
Yep. Okay, so yes, we need a motion to
I'll
pass.
recommend this licensee for approval.
Second. All right, is there any objection? Seeing none, then this moves forward.
So you know, we were just making a recommendation for Tuesday. We can't decide for the assembly. So when it comes up, there'll be a public hearing, which generally goes pretty quiet, and then Crystal can state, you know, the committee recommended approval.
Yeah.
And then we vote. So
Yeah, and I've seen the last couple. No one really seems to get up and comment. You need me down there though, just in case, right? Or just that's.
recommend.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, I plan on it.
Good. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay. And next on our list, we have AMG Concentrates. And we have people here representing them. Great. So if you want to take a seat down at the end of the table, then it would be wonderful. Okay, and then if we can just kind of have an update then from staff. Yes, thanks.
Okay. AMG Concentrates, this is for manufacturing license. All of their licensing requirements, have been addressed in their operating plan. There was no taxes, fees, or fines found due by any of the licensees or affiliates. They addressed all of the safety and security requirements in their operating plan. There were no additional conditions recommended for the license. There was a mention of a application for a license that was 17404 in the application. We haven't received the public notice for that one. We have one for a previous one, so we need to get that from you guys.
We aren't, one of the things when we did our cultivation at his address, they okayed, or we talked to the assembly at that point, they were okay with us doing a concentrate manufacturing license there, but the neighbors weren't really agreed upon doing retail. So we decided to not do retail at the location, so that's why it hasn't been pressed forward or moved forward at all there.
Okay.
Basically, we're not doing it there anymore, so the license was just kind of dead.
So is either the 17404 or the 12481, which one is the current? Because I think
the current one would be the firehouse.
The 404. Okay, yeah. So if you'll send the clerk's office the public notice for that one.
And would you mind stating your name too, so that we just kind of have that on the...
Armando Gonzalez.
Can we follow that up a bit? So I'm confused there. So is this AMG Firehouse not at this location?
No, there's going to be no retail at this location. This is for, what we're in front of you today is for manufacturing.
Right.
Yeah.
But is AMG Firehouse, it exists but not here? Not
No,
in
it's the application. We initiated the application, but it hasn't been taken any farther than that.
Okay. And so it was intended to be here, but you said
Yes, exactly.
because of the neighbor opposition.
Because of the neighbor, and the location's not the best, but just basically because of the neighbor. We didn't want to do it and have problems with the neighbors, so we declined it.
Okay, yes, please do.
So is that the neighbor? She runs the heavy equipment, the plowing and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Jeannie Schinderline.
Any other questions, or do you want to continue?
That was all.
Okay, thank you. Then Ryan.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So AMG Concentrates is applying for a special use permit for marijuana manufacturing facility. A total fairly small facility, 700 square feet of space within an existing industrial use building. Proposed facilities within an I-1 district generally located northwest of the intersection of Bonanza Avenue and Nielsen Way. Planned hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. The site will be operating in conjunction with a marijuana cultivation facility, and that'd be Alaska Marijuana Gardens, and that was approved last year, on April 10th. And it's located within the same building. Closest protected land use is an athletic field, and that'd be the Dome, which is actually measured straight line, 1,225 feet, property line to edge of athletic field. And it's actually across Dowling, so you can't physically walk there. The site has obtained non-conforming rights for building encroachments present on the property and the lack of visual enhancement landscaping. This use is consistent with the Acres 2040 land use plan, and the provided site plans do not show any major alterations of the building facade or structure that make it of dissimilar character, scale, or size when compared to surrounding structures. And the planning department recommends approval subject to the conditions as stated in the staff report. Thank you.
Mr. Dunbar, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Not so much for this directly. I'm satisfied with their meeting the requirements. I wanted to just hit on something you just said about the dome and it being more than 1,000 feet away. So the requirement would have been 500 feet, right?
Be 500 feet, shortest practical pedestrian route, front door to edge of athletic field.
Right. So that is an enclosed private facility. So are we treating those the same we would like a high school football field?
Correct. Some could argue that it would meet the definition of a sports and recreation facility rather than an athletic field, but previously it had been determined that it was an athletic field.
Are they licensed and permitted in some particular way that determines that they are a playing field or something like that, as opposed to some other private entertainment facility?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure if the health department has some type of classification for that, but for us it was simply just operation characteristics.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to note this because it goes back to something the debate we had several years ago when I was first on the assembly. I don't like the fact that our regulatory scheme pits private interests against each other. That is to say, why should this private entity and this private for-profit, I don't know if the Dome is, I guess it's technically non-profit, entity trump this other private entity? You know, if it's a school facility, if it's a government facility where, you know, we have established some public interest, then I support that. But the separation distances from other other private facilities has always troubled me. And this is sort of another example. I mean, what if somebody I don't know, if somebody builds a for-profit thing that happens to have a children's facility, like a McDonald's with a playground in it, now you can't have this other private business anywhere around there, and that to me is a unfortunate precedent. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the operating or the square footage is really small out of the entire building. I guess I don't quite understand what else is happening in the building.
Cultivation.
So, okay, so this is just a manufacturing added on top of what's already happening in cultivation. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, good clarification. So, okay, Mr. Peterson and Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so, are you reducing the cultivation to put this in, or is this a room that you've been intending to
We've
use
been-
for
been
manufacturing
intending.
all along?
Yeah, been intending for it. Yeah.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Mr. Weddleton.
I've got a couple questions for staff, and one is just an odd thing in this packet. At the end, we have like reports of service, police calls on a site, and it was for 626 D Street. It was quite lengthy. It looked really bad at first, but it doesn't appear to be connected with your business at all. So I don't know how that got in
626 D
there.
Street?
But don't rent there because they got problems.
Right.
And then, so their manufacturing, we went through quite a lot on different rules on how you can manufacture, and you couldn't have certain kinds of stuff that might blow up and so on. So who checks to make sure, we have a great outline, here's what you'll do, but do we have someone who actually goes in and verifies that that's what's being done?
So we've got, as part of the manufacturing submittal requirements, they have to provide an attestation from an industrial hygienist or professional engineer that the manufacturing methods and equipment that they're utilizing are safe. So we have that as a requirement. And then the folks over in building safety make sure that if they're using CO2 extraction, that they have proper ventilation to introduce oxygen into the environment should the level of CO2 exceed safe occupancy levels. And then if they're using any contents under extreme pressures that they, and I'm not sure the exact requirements, but they have to have blast walls in there or walls that can withstand something flying into them. But the fire department takes the lead on a lot of that type of inspection.
Okay, good.
So,
And when you first came, and you hit it when you talked about the retail, particularly that one neighbor, but was worried about it. A number of issues that were going on there, like kind of predated your operating there. A lot of cars were parked
Yeah, it took
willy-nilly in the
forever
area.
to get the people out of there. But yeah, they're gone. We're in the middle of remodeling it now and just trying to button everything up for the cultivation and then moving forward onto the concentrates.
So you're not
But-
growing yet?
No, we are not approved completely yet, no.
Okay, because I was surprised we did not hear a comment from your neighbor. We didn't get anything. Is that?
I think that's because we actually have became closer, and when it first started, I think her perception was something totally different, and from what was going on there, and the foot traffic, and the people and everything, that she thought it was going to be like a madhouse. But now that we're remodeling there, and we talked to her, they just came over and did fix their sewer on our in our lot the other day. We have a good working relationship right now, basically. So I think that's possibly why she's not arguing us putting anything in there. And we also decided not to do the retail in favor of her, just to be kind,
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Okay.
so
Correct.
then can you clarify for me then which licenses are actually approved and which ones are you've just,
The only license that is approved that we do not have plants in there growing is the cultivation right now.
only
Yes.
license cultivation?
And that's still waiting on the CO and CCO and everything to get done. And then this one now is in front of the assembly. The retails are basically on hold for the moment.
Okay. So there's still multiple pieces here. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Gonzalez, comments, anything we need to know?
Not really. Like Ryan said, we're going with CO2. That way we don't have to have explosion-proof equipment and worry about stuff blowing up and everything like that. But we do have to bring fresh air in, so we try to go the safest route that we thought was possible for manufacturing stuff. Other than that, not really.
Okay, great, thank you. So,
Thank you. you guys.
And then do we have any other comments, questions? All right, so, the will of the committee be to recommend this for going to the assembly for approval?
Sure, I'll move that the committee recommend this for approval.
I'll second.
Thank you, and is there any objection? All right, hearing none, then this moves forward as recommended by the committee.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you so much. Okay, got it. Okay, great. So,
But you could.
okay, right, makes sense. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you. Would you please just state your name just for the recording that, I know we have the Great Alaskan Kush Company here, but go ahead.
My name is Kim Cole. Dana Wilson.
We were just talking a little bit about how we might want to do this because we know we have some public comments with this one, but we're going to start with staff and then let you guys have your comments and certainly answer questions as we go through this process, and then we will have time for some public commenting as well. So, Mandy, lead us off, please.
The Great Alaskan Kush Company was for a retail license. Their operating plan addressed all of the licensing requirements. There were no taxes, fees, or fines found due by any of the licensees or affiliates. They also addressed all of the safety and security requirements in their operating plan. There were no comments from any of the other reviewing departments, and there were no additional conditions recommended for the license.
Thank you. All right, then Ryan.
Sean Odell, staff. So thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant, the Great Alaska Kush Company, is applying for a special land use permit for a marijuana retail facility, and it's going to total 2,618 square feet of space within an existing building. It's kind of a commercial condo building. The proposed facility is within the I-1 district, generally located at the west intersection of East International Airport Road and Fairbanks Street. The retail sales establishment will be open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to midnight. The petitioner will need to secure non-conforming rights for on-site parking, lack of pedestrian facilities, lack of parking lot and visual enhancement landscaping. This will be through a non-conforming determination through the planning department that they will do. The site will need to provide the required number of accessible parking spaces with a minimum of 3 spaces accessible in one van. Plans that were submitted require the applicant to provide adequate snow storage or enter into an agreement for snow removal. The closest protected land use is 632 feet away. The proposed use of the site as a marijuana retail sales establishment is consistent with the classification of the Anchorage 24 land use plan and its current zoning designation of light industrial. Therefore, the planning department recommends approval of the special land use permit subject to the conditions that were stated in the staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Solotel.
Thank you. So we have some concerns because this is a set of contiguous units, whether or not the walls inside the units go, I don't know, floor to roof, or if it's hollow ceiling. So I guess that's my first question. Do we know the answer to that yet?
I do.
Okay.
So currently there is nothing, you can go up into the attic and up and over. Clearly, we do not want that. We plan on putting a full barrier to make sure that there is no way, security-wise, that anybody could get into Dr. Gray's office and then up and over into ours because, we don't want theft or anything else or smell to go over. It'll include a plastic barrier to help with any smell concerns. concerns as well.
And Matt, go ahead. Yeah, the other issue was odor, and can we make it a condition that all odor be mitigated to the 4 corners of the unit instead of the lot line, as a condition on the grant?
It's retail.
Yeah, Chris Shooty, Office of Economic Community Development. Just a little bit of, I'm not going to answer your question directly, but the short answer is yes. I want to give some context to this. There's 2 different treatments of the physical space, one specific to the building code, one specific to the zoning code. The issue of odor detection from lot line is in the zoning code, and that is very specific language about the lot line. In the case of a condo or strip mall development, obviously that creates challenges unit to unit. So from the Title 21 side, complaints of odor in neighboring units would not be a violation necessarily unless a condition is created specific to this license. Just wanted you guys to be aware of that.
Okay. So, okay, we have some questions on that.
Well, and this is a comment, I rented in a mall type situation myself, and after I had been there for 6 months or so, a gun shop moved in next door. And so they were worried about security because they had $150,000 worth of guns on inventory or whatever it was. And that was a long time ago. So when they remodeled, they put a barrier in all the way to the roof. And it was spendy for them to do that, but that is, you can do it, and it was completely secure. There was no problems.
Thank you. Did they complain about the smell of your pizza?
Oh, no, but they did come over and order very regularly.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I just want to be completely sure. You said a condoed situation, and condo implies ownership, but I assume that this is the whole building is owned by. Is the building as a whole owned by one person?
I had talked to Jennifer
or one LLC?
Last week. Jennifer is my personal landlord.
Okay.
And I asked her how many landlords are there, and she said that there are 3.
So there are 3 landlords in one building.
Wow.
Interesting. Okay.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure I understand the mechanics of how the condition or where we put in things such as a full barrier wall to roof in a condo, and then the condition for specific to the license. And so anybody wants to educate me, I would be grateful.
Yeah, and I'll actually lean heavily on Mandy and Ryan for this one for specific language, but essentially the license is specific to the site, and because we're specifying a particular condo unit for the site, you can tie any license conditions to that specific condo unit. So I don't know if you want to help with the wording of it, but yes, it's possible to apply to one unit.
Okay, and then the walls, like that they go floor to roof, is that something, where does that go in? Where do we put that in writing?
Just be an additional condition that we could add.
An additional condition, okay.
Similar to what we did with the previous case for Tip Top.
Okay.
You could make it condition 10 on page 6 in staff packet.
If I could just add to the state regulations require that no smell comes outside the licensed premises too. So that's also a state requirement already.
So could you say that again, please?
That no smell leaks outside of the lines of the licensed premises.
Oh.
On the state side, but it makes sense to put it into the new side too.
Okay. I saw a bunch of hands going up, so okay, Mr. Bull.
I would just, I didn't bring it, but I had emailed the building staff on how to word something with that wall, and they came up with something quite detailed. So I didn't bring it, but if you want, I'll craft an amendment that basically just take that wording and essentially have something. So that would be an additional amendment that sounds like something.
We already planned on doing it anyway.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a couple of points.
Okay.
Done with that issue.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Bull.
Matt, you said that there were comments from other departments, so regarding that whole condo thing. And one was there's condition 7 that I guess it's on the applicant to verify non-conforming rights regarding landscaping and pedestrian access. So has that been done?
I've already gotten the signature from Jennifer, and I'm planning on turning it in this week
Turning in a request to get the.
for non-conforming.
Okay, so you're working with the condo owner, but they have to be parking requirements for all the units together. And landscaping for all the units, and the pedestrian for all the units. So is that, it sounds difficult, is that working for it? And for the tape recorder, I'm looking at Sean.
It's the whole building, and that's the owner. Now that you bring that up, it would have to be all three.
Have to be all three.
It'd have to be all three owners to give authorization for the non-conforming determination for grandfather rights. But it would be the whole parcel, the whole.
I think we need to look to see if the building or the whole parcel is owned by one company and there's 3 owners of the company, and who is the person to bind the company. If that's the case, so we can dig into that and figure that out.
It's an older building, so.
Keep following? Okay, sure.
So, and then their condition 8 was similar issue with snow storage. I mean, that would be something everybody would have to get together on.
That's true.
Okay, so I'm looking at Jan or.
I know that because your landlord technically lives out of state, but his son is letting it. So would it be sufficient to get the son's
I think we.
signature?
As long as the authorized representative.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we need to look into how the ownership is structured of that person.
And you may already have a snow storage agreement, or there may be snow storage on site. It just wasn't shown on the site plan. They may already be taking care of snow removal. They just need to formalize it to us.
So then condition 9 with parking was similar?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yep, they just need to show on the site plan the number of spaces.
It looked really simple in your application, but then when I'm reading condo, I'm going, this could be very tricky.
Go ahead, Brad.
Okay, Ryan, yeah, you had.
And Madam Chair, just to back up a little bit on the order issue again, and just discussing this with Sean, I think with the existing condition number 4.
We're on the AR.
We could just amend that language so it would read, the premises shall be ventilated so that the odor of marijuana cannot be detected outside the licensed premises by a person with a normal sense of smell. Violation could lead to a requirement to increase air filtering or change the ventilation location in this establishment. So that would get rid of essentially delete the language at any lot line.
And replace that with outside the licensed premises.
Yeah, and we could put that amendment together and send it off to you when I send you the tip top.
Okay, I think if you, maybe Meg and then Crystal and myself.
Sure.
Okay, so I got one.
Okay, keep going.
Okay.
Just to
Well, actually, can we let you out?
Just to clarify, you mean as a floor amendment to this resolution?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Wild.
I guess 2 more, but one is, and this is to Chris, I think, just for, it's not an immediate issue, I don't think, but for on-site consumption, we still have this notion of a freestanding unit. No on-site unless it's freestanding. Would this unit be considered freestanding? It's a condo.
Yeah, through the chair, our read of it is that it does not allow for condo units to allow on-site consumption. But as many of you know, the state just, last week, I think, issued new suggested changes to regulations, and one of those, looking at Jana, specifically singles out the freestanding requirement. I think in recognition of the fact that there will likely be non-freestanding license applications. So I think for the time being, that freestanding rule is in place, but could change.
Okay, let's go one last one.
Go ahead.
If I may, I read the draft regulations that the state put out as well, and the way I understood it as the way it's drafted, it wouldn't require a freestanding review for edibles on site. It would require a freestanding sleep draft for inhalation and the blue consumption road.
So 2 more.
Okay.
And this is to the applicant. There's a concern, I think, with any retail. The people can come in, buy something, they're really excited about your product, and they're going to go out and they're going to light up in their car. And that can be hard to control. So, but you have, typically, I think, at the marijuana places, there's someone checking IDs near the front. Is that person able to look out in that parking lot?
Yes, so the way we've got it situated, the ID checker will be in the front, there are windows right there, and we're gonna have the actual canvas off to the side so that you can't see anything from the outside, but that checker will be able to see out that front door because it is glass. Given Raspberry Roots, I will say that people don't hang out. They come in, they get what they need, and they leave. We do not have anybody hanging out in our parking lot ever.
Okay. Okay, good. So,
Please go ahead.
There are a lot of places, a lot cooler places to light up.
Well,
like your home.
And I've been told they don't hang out there because there's all these cameras around everywhere.
Yes.
Just.
Yeah, there's tons of cameras all over.
Did you have another question or comment, Mr. Gates?
Oh, no, I agree with what Mr. Peterson said. I mean, code and state reg requires the cameras outside the exterior environment.
Plus Kim has a no loitering policy as required by the state regulations. So the person who's checking IDs during the slow times, if there's somebody coming in, they're gonna walk around the parking lot and make sure they do it at least every hour to every 2 hours, kind of on not scheduled timing, so people can't guesstimate when they're walking around to make sure no one's behind the building, no one's camping out in the parking lot, that kind of stuff.
and maybe to clarify this, or Dean, maybe you could say, but when you're, your parking isn't just that in front of your unit, you actually have some authority on the entire parking area in that whole complex, I would think.
Well,
It's some responsibility.
Yeah, it's our responsibility.
Because you're at one end and at the far end,
Oh, I see
someone
what you're
should go
saying.
down there
Okay.
and light up. But it seems appropriate that you would go over and say, no.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And so the no loitering policy is for the whole
It's for the
parcel.
whole-
It's supposed to walk around the
Including
whole
the lot.
So then, there is some opposition to this from your neighbors, which
There
we
is.
hear from. So, and one is your doors are very close together, your front door. Is it possible, I'm looking at your layout, you have like a lobby area that's reasonably large, really. Can you move your door to the far side of that lobby?
If they pay for it, sure.
If
It's
they'll
really,
pay for it?
it's really expensive to do that, and then it's a lot of structural changes for the condo, and it's an old building, so there's a lot of things that could pop up that makes that not possible. And it's probably gonna be, that would be about 150 to 200. Well, it would be about 100 to 150 grand to move that. I mean, we could look into it more, but the building is old, and so we don't really know where all the electrical is at, and so
The other piece of that is, if you look at our floor plan, the way that you walk in and then you get checked in that area, and then you don't get released to the actual purchasing area, which is tucked off to the side. So the way we have it right now with where the door is structured, the flow is very nice. But if we were to move it, then all of a sudden that whole area would be completely wasted space that we really wouldn't be able to use because you're walking directly into the actual retail area. And so it doesn't make sense to walk into the retail area and then be escorted to a waiting area.
Which
but-
is also kind of a security concern. So, if you come into Raspberry Roots now, you'll see there's a separate area for checking IDs and kind of managing the flow so there's not too many customers overloading the staff. Because you get so many people right in the point of sale area, it gets difficult to kind of manage everybody. So that's why this has kind of been laid out that way. It's better for security, it's better safety for the employees. It's just
We'd also have to start all over again with AMCO.
Well, and there's that.
Because we're already approved the way that it's set up now.
Looking at the schematic though, you have kind of, if you're looking at the front of the building, your kind of entry area and then your retail area. And that looks like it's at least 20 feet from where the door is now, and it would still lead into the lobby area, kind of your entry area, not into the retail area. So it's, I wouldn't say put it all the way to the west, but move it even 20 feet or 50.
So what would this accomplish?
It's a perception thing, and we deal with perceptions here, as you know. That's why we do these separation distances. It's not that people in churches are going to all of a sudden be drawn to become marijuana smokers because you're nearby. We just don't want to tick them off, and we want to do things to get less people mad and put,
But if it doesn't control the smell and it doesn't control how many people come in and out of the door, then it seems like a lot of money spent to disrupt the flow and put off our entire process for months and months when we've already been paying rent, and we'd like to kind of get this up and running at this point. So it's additional costs.
How about a compromise where we put up some kind of, like in my head, I'm thinking a slated, like, little barrier between the two walls. So it's almost like a physical barrier between the two walls. And I don't know if building safety would be okay with this. But just a little jut out that kind of like separated the uses.
You're talking on the exterior of
On
the
the
building.
exterior, yeah, on the exterior of the building. I mean, that might alleviate some of their concerns, and it would shield the view from the Great Alaska Kush Company.
Well,
From,
the sidewalk, it's not our sidewalk, is.
That's still a walkway in front of the
The ADA,
building.
yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair. So one of the challenges with this, and we're uncovering it through this debate, but one of the challenges with this is the fact that it is a condo building. There's 11 or 12 units, 11 or 12 owners. There should be some kind of condo association, which I look to the other tenants to verify or not, but in a condo situation like that, if you own a unit, you own everything inside of your four walls. And it's the association's responsibility to handle everything outside of the four walls, including snow storage, parking striping, signage, yada, yada, yada. For decisions or discussions about changes to the exterior facade of a condo development or a strip mall, that places a burden on the condo association and not solely on the applicant, although I'm sure that association would say, if we're gonna change this, it's your financial responsibility. So keep in mind that this is a more challenging license to deal with because it is not a single use or a freestanding structure, and there are other owners involved.
So, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so, could you create an Arctic entry type situation where you come in one door, they check your IDs, and then you've got another wall with a door to get into the retail? Because that would probably help keep the smell in the retail area.
So right now there is a little Arctic entry. So there's a double door when you come in. You walk in and then you have to walk through another door, and then there's that kind of reception area where the IDs are checked. And I know it's trying to remember if we ended up with a wall or not, because we've talked about walls and not walls right there to separate. I believe we were just going to have it kind of more open.
Well, if there's already two doors, sounds like they're going to keep the smell inside.
Well, I think Mr. Weddleton was referring to more of the outside impression, but, from the outside, kind of just looking in, but, Ms. Solito.
Thank you. So you're unit 2, right? And the grays are in unit 4. What's in unit 3?
2 and 3 are ours.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's helpful. And do we know how long this parcel has been zoned I-1? Long time, like 30 years or more?
Yeah,
Okay.
Madam Chair, it was originally zoned I-1 when it was platted, and it stayed I-1 ever since.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the committee? Oh, it's in that chart. Ms. Cole, any more comments?
We don't plan on having even if the assembly changed the rule on a standalone sign that makes anybody feel good about it, and we're happy to collaborate on the sign design, with the chiropractor office to see if there's some things that we could do to mitigate some of their concerns. I think that sometimes people get, kind of ramped up and kind of how the last applicant was talking about, they just didn't know what this was going to be like, and so they got really concerned, and that's kind of a similar thing here. Is like, this is going to be an improvement, but in the event that it's not, these licenses are renewable every year in front of this body and in front of the state. So if this does turn out to be, a bad situation and there's smells and concerns like that, then the public can always come back and voice their concerns, and you can make their decision at that point. But so far, we've been really good operators as an industry, and Kim has been one of the first operators in this industry, and she's done a good job.
All right, well,
Can I follow up?
oh, okay. Yes.
Have you had any notices of violations for your
Had
retailers or
one,
restaurants?
We've had a few notices of violations. One was we had built walls for a particular area, and then to not get it re-inspected, and we had a few things in there, and so they were upset that we had things in there before it got re-inspected. So we had to move all the furniture out, and then they inspected it, then we moved all the furniture back in. So that was one notice of violation. Yeah, so we had a couple, but.
We had a self-reported one?
Yep, we had a self-reported one, accidentally moving, cannabis from cultivation to manufacturing before asking permission. So.
And then,
were there any with behavior with
No.
your customers or anything?
Oh, no.
Anything that?
And I don't think, have you had a small violation?
Nope, I have not had a small violation at all. Actually, Elaine has complimented me and told me that she has told other facilities, look, there are facilities out there like Raspberry Roots that I walk around and I smell nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Benson.
I think that actually answers my question. I just was going to note that this is a retail, and I think almost all of our small violations have come from cultivation. But if you are able to prevent odor violations even from your cultivation facility, then good job. Thank you.
Looks like no other comments or questions, so thank you very much. We do have some public comments that we're going to invite to come up. So you do that and just introduce yourselves so that it can be recorded.
I'm Dr. Charlie Gray. I'm one of the co-owners of Gray Chiropractic Health Clinic. My wife, Dr. Jennifer Walton Gray, she is the other owner. Wow, this has been a long process. It started since 2016. We have done everything we could to figure out what it is you can do and can't do, and who to talk to, and everything else. In fact, in March, Dick, that you and Elby actually came to our establishment and walked through the business and saw how close proximity it was. It's literally a wall, drywall. There's no insulation in there. There's nothing. It's either wood or metal studs. There's both throughout the building because it's been torn up and ripped apart so many times because it's so old. I have contacted AMCO a ridiculous amount of times. I talked to them. I've emailed, called, I've left messages.
Specific names, people that we've talked to over 3 years.
Cynthia Franklin is the past director. I had a nice long conversation with her. She was very hard to get a hold of before Director McConnell. Over and over again, when I would call AMCO, I was told to email us, marijuana@alaska.gov, or the government email addresses. I've gotten 0 emails back, any of my questions, in 3 years. And if there's nobody available, or very rarely available, to get a hold of to ask questions, that makes it very challenging as a business owner, very time consuming, to try to find out answers, find out what I need to do. One of the things that was brought up to me was, why is the syndic just not hearing about this? Because I've been trying to find out what it is I can and can't do and who I need to talk to. That's part of the problem. There's just such a disconnect between the government side and the public side to find out who I talk to. Because just talking to somebody doesn't get you to the right people. If they say email, and I email a ridiculous amount of times in 3 years and get no responses, I call, there's nobody available most of the time. How am I supposed to get answers to my questions? And that's been a big part of the challenge. Some other things that have, some of the other things that I wanted to bring up too. Ms. Cole's license went, find the information here. It went inactive because it was such a long process of going on. I knew she had other business issues working on it, she focused on. But her license was administratively moved to, I believe, failure to complete status by the state of Alaska. I spoke with Jane at the AMCO office, and she told me that once it comes to this status, that there's no way that it could be moved back to the queue, that it's a dead application, and that there's nothing more to be done. If the applicant wants to move forward, it has to be a full new application process to the board. It has to have all new public notices and basically start from square one again. Within 6 months, last year, it was moved back into the queue for approval. So when I do talk to people at the AMCO board, I get misinformation, I'm not getting right answers, and then sometimes told me it's completely changed a couple months later.
And not only that, the way we found out that she was moving forward was, I was in my office adjusting a family and I heard banging on the other side of my adjusting room. And he went over and asked, this is how we found out after years of thinking it was incomplete and she was gonna have to start over, that she's all of a sudden getting her business going again. We as business owners have had to fight and claw our way up from the bottom of this, reaching out to everybody that we can possibly think of, being left hanging by not having phone calls returned and emails not answered. And so whatever happens with this, I would like for everybody to take a look at this process and really pin it down and make it clean. Because as a established business owner with no violations, no problems, no concerns, to have to struggle this way to get anybody to hear our side has been incredibly frustrating. And we've got 3 years of documentation, 3 minutes in front of the assembly. There was no way that we could convey 3 years of our struggle. We have had zero communication from Ms. Cole. She's supposed to be holding meetings with resident and business neighbors to talk about some of the things that they thought today at this meeting was the first time that they've offered to work with us on anything with this business. Today right here. So, I really strongly, and many in the community strongly feel that this is not an appropriate business to have on the other side of a wall where children will be. It's not appropriate. And ventilation systems can fail. There could be a single crack in the wall somewhere, like Dr. Charlie said, there's no insulation. There have been incidents where ventilation systems have failed or odors have gotten through. There's an article in 2018 that said that 2 of these establishments in this community last year went through that. I'll pull it up if you need to see it. We'll email it to you later. It's not appropriate. This is not appropriate to have next to a pediatric office. This is not appropriate. And I know that there are, so schools and churches, how did we come up with that? What is the reason for us deciding that schools and churches need to be 500 feet or whatever it is from these? So what about those children when they go to their karate classes, when they go to the dance studios, when they go see their pediatrician, their dentist, their chiropractor, their physical therapist? You guys need to pay more attention to the businesses, because there are those kinds of businesses in I-1 zones. There are. It's not appropriate to have this kind of establishment next to a place where children will be. It's not appropriate. So I know that you have some more facts, sorry.
Just fine.
Well, I've got some questions right now. If you, if you
We'd love
wanna
to, maybe that'll lead
jump
into
in
some
a
of
little
the
bit
other
here. Okay, Ms. Zollenthal.
Thank you, and this actually might be for Mandy and Ryan or the department. What is our municipal process? If we find there's an error or an error is brought to light in the process at AMCO, where let's say they didn't consider objections or something like that, do we have anything that we do when we see something that raises a red flag within the state process? Because I know we wait for the state process to go, and if we later see something, do we have a policy or procedure about that? Have we had that happen before where something went amiss with AMCO?
No, through the chair, I mean, we have our own process to follow to oversee another process that we don't administer, which is quite difficult.
Okay. And then, if I may, with a follow-up, since I've got Ryan right here, I'm still your Title 21. I'm looking at the I-1. Can you just remind me, and I was looking at all the permitted uses and the conditional uses, give me that, short synopsis of what I-1 is being used for now. I know, and I realize Title 21's kind of shifted, so can you give me that short, like, one sentence I mean, I can
I would
see
do
all
like
the different
the-
things,
we
but
can
the
give you the
purpose,
definition.
yeah.
Give you the definition check for.
I
Yeah.
wasn't as fast at finding it. I'm not
Yeah.
as fast with Title 21 as you are.
It's my 6-shooter.
It's light industrial, so.
And then I guess my question to the applicant, or to the commenters, what else is in this? So there's you guys. There's the proposed establishment.
In this business, right next to, before they went in was Just For Me. It was a plus-size women's clothing shop, was what used to be there, and that has not been there for several years. Right next to us is Kent's Electronics, and then Great Originals has a couple bays, and Bill Schmidt is the one that owns Great Originals. He's one of the owners of the building.
What is that?
It's a printing company.
Printing.
Yep. And then on the other side, that's TNT Bulk Mail, and then the water store, and then GPS sales, and then on the end, I believe it's I'm not sure if Parker's Hose and Fittings is coming back in there, or if they are out, but there's some movement in there. I don't know exactly.
Thank you.
So we do have, oh, go ahead, Mr. Dunbar.
So I just realized why this is called Great Alaska Fish Company. I realized this like earlier this morning when I saw the map.
What's down the street?
So so right across from you and sort of a little off the right, there is Alaska's largest strip club with a bar inside. And have you had any issues with that clientele?
No, and they're actually further down than you think. Because if you have our bay, and then you cross over, I believe Fairbanks, there's Enterprise Rental Car, and then past that there is another building. There's a church, and then past that there's another building, and then across from there is the strip club. So it's quite a ways. I'd probably say at least 3 to 4 football lengths down. It's not.
So you guys are on the other side of this. You're on this side then, not this side. 'Cause I mean, this is it right here, right?
If I can see,
I mean, it looks like it's less than 500 feet.
That is,
That's not it.
Nope, that's so behind that building you're pointing at is, I think, GCR, whatever.
Oh,
That
okay,
is
excellent.
some kind of parts. That's not.
they're further down. I don't even know if they're on this page, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I would have to see a picture, but it is not the corner of Fairbanks and International. It's not.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just to go back to Ms. Dalzell's question about the I-1 zoning. So on page 3 of the staff packet on the bottom, we've got the whole definition and intent statement for the I-1 district, which I could read aloud if you want.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you for getting it to me, pointing in the right direction.
Well, I wasn't sure if Madam Chair was done with the questions.
Well, okay, got a couple things here, moving kind of a couple different directions we can go here. One is, we do have representation from AMCO, so we can probably have a few comments, Jed. So, would you like to comment on, and you might as well come here and join us, that makes it easier to just just in regard to the comments that you've heard from the public comments from the doctors, great, and in regard to the process that AMCO goes through with any kind of public input. So.
Yeah. Jed Smith, Alcohol and Marijuana Control Office. So I don't have a lot of direct experience with this particular application. I don't typically work directly with applicants. Sometimes I work with members of the public. I did talk to the director last night. Our office did apparently receive a certified letter with a number of objections, and there are 4 letters of objection to this particular license. The marijuana email that you referred to goes directly to the board, the members of the board. They have access to that, so we don't typically review that email inbox. We have a licensing inbox that we get a lot of licensing questions on. Members of the public are free to access that, but the marijuana@alaska.gov goes directly to the board. So they review those emails. The public objection process is kind of what it is. We made some revisions to it a couple of years ago, or I guess about a year and a half ago. Originally, I think the original regulations required the public to object within 30 days of the applicant posting notice of their intention to apply for a license, which can be very, very early on in the process. We've since revised those regulations to say that the public can object up to 30 days after the complete application has been submitted to the local government. So we think that that's made it a little bit more accessible to members of the public.
And typically, how long would that whole period be then?
I mean, the application process can be anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, which was really why we wanted to extend that period of public objection. I mean, we've seen applications take quite a long time, and if the public can only object in the very early stages of that before the applicant even knows what their operation plan looks like, then that's not really a very substantive objection. So we felt it was important to have the full, complete application to give the public an opportunity to kind of see what the intentions are of the operator.
I know the Grays have some questions.
30 days after the posting of an application, how are we even supposed to know about that? There was never any correspondence from AMCO in regards to a neighbor moving in and how we felt about it. The only reason we found out about it is because she came into our office and announced what she was doing in front of our waiting room. We got no correspondence whatsoever from anybody. So if we're supposed to do 30-day, whatever, we didn't even know about it. We did not even know about it.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to point that out. And Jed, please interject. When we do public notice as a city, one of the data sources or record sources that we use is property ownership. So in the case of this strip mall, there would be a group of about 4 people who got 6 notices, none of whom are the tenants. So one of the challenges can be sending these things to the owners of record and not always capturing the tenants. Now we do occasionally capture renters when we have accurate records, but unless the planning department has more up-to-date records of ownership or rentership of this particular structure, as far as the city is concerned, from our tax rolls, there's 3 people that would have gotten these things.
I need to speak to that.
Well, can I let the administration finish with Ryan when you want to finish with that, and then we'll let you all comment. Or John, sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Chris is absolutely correct and points out something that is hard to communicate with members of the public and residents of large multifamily dwellings, commercial condo units. We did check the distribution list for everybody that was sent a mailer, and it looks like every unit within 360 East International Airport Road was sent a public hearing notice. And those were mailed out
March 26th.
Of which year?
This
2019?
Yeah, for our part. It's a green letter that's mailed out. 2019, yeah.
This is what I wanted to speak on, is that if this did go to the owner, we got nothing. This, just as recently as March 26th, the business owners got no communication on this.
Okay. And typically, you get some of those returned, just return to sender kind of a thing, non-deliverable. Do you know what kind of return numbers you had?
We don't typically get them if they're returned to sender.
Okay.
And that is the hard part. Here in which suite?
Number 4.
Number 4.
So there was one sent to resident of Suite 4. So it would have came to the suite. So
We would have seen it.
You would have been watching. So
Do you have
Zolotel?
certified mail that do you have?
no, they're just mailed out first class.
I've got a couple
Sent
people
out
in line here.
132 of them.
132 at certified mail in various ways.
Okay. Ms. Zolotow.
Thank you. When does the sign go up with the M on it?
I'll have to defer to the applicant. When did you post?
Which, are you talking
The
about
one, the new,
green sign?
the sign you put on the door with the new
Yep.
big M on it.
So I put that on, goodness, I don't remember the exact day. I put it on and then I misread the thing. I thought I only had to be up for 21 days, so I did take it down. And then I put it back up and it's been up since then. So it was, goodness, it was probably, I want to say, because originally we were supposed to have gone in front of the assembly last time, and that was because, scheduling wise. So I'd say probably about a month before that.
April 29th.
There you go.
Okay.
You fixed it up.
And
Just last.
could I add a few things? The community councils get the full completed application from AMCO when it's deemed complete. So complete is like a term of art that AMCO uses once their reviewers get all the pieces of documents, review it all, be like, okay, you've met the regulations, this is gonna be scheduled for the board. They send in a completed application to the community council. So your community council president always has it. Well, I mean, that's just the process, so we definitely have it. So, showing up to those community councils on a regular basis is really important. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is in the marijuana regulations, for a public comment to be valid, they have to also serve the licensee. Because this isn't like, Facebook or Instagram. You actually have to tell somebody, hey, I have a problem with your business and this is why. And Kim didn't receive any of those to her. And so that may be, and I don't want to speak for AMCO, but that may be the reason why those some of those public notices, public objections weren't included in the packet, is because they weren't served on her as well, provided to her too by the public objection period.
I actually have her signature. She received my my letter. Yep.
So your letter, but they're not the ones that you're talking about that weren't included.
The same one that went to the Amco box.
So whatever the issue is there, it's like, I'm just telling you as a rule, you have to serve all of the communication for objections to the applicant and to the board before the deadline.
And when did that regulation take effect? Because this has been going on since 2016.
This regulation has been in effect for the requirement to serve both parties, to tell you have a problem with your business and to tell the marijuana control board, always has been a regulation. The only thing that's changed is how long you guys get more time now. So instead of the public posting out that's just that, piece of information that doesn't really say too much about the business, that used to be 30 days from the date that you post it, and that was just too short because people really didn't know what their plans were, so you couldn't provide subsequent objections because you didn't know what the operation was going to look like. So that got extended to 30 days from the completed application when the community council has the full packet, local government has the full packet, packets available, then that's when that 30 days starts.
But you did get one. You at least got one, and that one was never addressed.
I personally never got anything, but I'm not the applicant.
Yes.
But
We have
I haven't
signed for it.
in the last couple of months.
Well, no, you received this and signed for this
the
on.
2016.
And you are, I've forgotten, but yeah.
You signed on March 15th, 2016, and that's your signature, right there.
I do apologize. I forgot about that from 3 years ago.
I feel like that was in the packet. That was in
The Taco Camo Community Council had no objections.
And that's actually something that I brought up too. I didn't even know there was a community council. I thought there was a state, the assembly. I didn't find out about this committee or the community council until I believe you, John Robinson, and Susan LaFrance said, hey, you need to speak up to these. But when I found out about the community council was, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. They voted on it in February 14th to approve her license to move forward with 0 objections, which means none of the objections that the AMCO board had or the Marijuana Control Board had were forwarded on to any and all stakeholders in the decision process.
So we send out mailer invites 21 days in advance before her community council engagement meeting. And Brian, the list that you guys generated for us, did that have the actual suite numbers to send it to, just like the public zoning? The same. So we actually sent an invite, particularly to each suite and each business owner, inviting you to the community council. There's not, I appreciate your guys' concern, but as a business owner myself, you can't put so much burden on somebody else just trying to get up that they have to hold your hand to walk you through the process. There's been multiple public notices sent out, multiple chances to object, multiple opportunities.
I haven't objected since March of 2000.
So you didn't come to the community council meeting, which we invited you to, to voice their concerns, and that's why the council.
So you have that we received
Okay.
that because we didn't.
Did you send it to the owner?
We sent it to the suite members.
I think we have probably established the fact that there are some inconsistencies with notice and with where you might be able to go in terms of voicing your opinion. So I think there's probably some things, even from the state level, that we can't really address right here and fix. We need to focus on what we can do right here at the assembly level. I got a couple of hands that are going up, probably points of clarification. Maybe I saw your hand, Mr. Gates. Was there something that you wanted to address? And then I've got Mr. Dunbar.
No, I don't have
Mr.
anything to
Wells.
say right now.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, even if the community council had objected, that's not outcome determinative. We don't give them the right to stop the application. The notice issues, for whatever reason, AMCO decided to approve this. Now it's before us, and I'm not hearing that there are notice issues or process issues with us following our rules, at least. What happened to AMCO happened to AMCO, but now it's before us, we're following our rules, and we have the completed license from AMCO. So what I'd like to focus on is sort of, rather than these process questions, is the substance, right? Which is, what exactly is the legal reason we cannot approve this license? And I also want to ask Mr. Gates, it's sometimes not clear when we are in a quasi-judicial function. When this comes back to us on Tuesday, are we in a judicial, legislative or a quasi-judicial setting? And if it's quasi-judicial, what can we do or not do to avoid acting arbitrarily and capriciously in violation of the law?
Thanks, Mr. Dunbar. I sort of anticipated a question like this. We have our code provision 1080 that says denial of a license application. When everyone's for a new license, the Assembly will deny for a number of reasons. Some of them are very objective, if the application's not complete. A6 is where the Assembly is sort of reserved to itself some discretion to balance competing interests and things like that. So A6 says, the Assembly will deny an application for a license if the Assembly finds that issuance of the license will adversely impact the health, welfare, or public safety of the neighborhood in which the marijuana establishment is proposed to be located, or otherwise will not be in the best interests of the public. And so, we balance that concern and the impact on the neighborhood and what mitigating measures they've taken and the conditions imposed by planning, and we still sort of have that discretion. Is it mitigating enough? So that's really the basis you would use, and the code section would cite if you were going to determine you want to deny this application. So,
can I ask a quick
Please, go
follow-up
ahead.
to that?
Yeah.
So if we were to do that, what is the legal recourse of the applicant? Because we have never, I don't believe we've ever denied an application, because usually these applications come to us after years of working through the regulatory process. So what would be their legal recourse where we did that?
Yeah, I've never had to get this before. Like you said, we haven't denied one. So final decision of the Assembly regarding the application can be appealed to the Superior Court.
And then it's not you, it's who argues that?
I don't do litigation in this position, but it would be the Department of Law that would then defend this as an administrative appeal. The administrative appeal would be copying the whole record, reading the transcript from this meeting, for example, and Tuesday night's meeting, and all this documentation would be the record in front of the Superior Court.
Okay. Last question.
Go ahead. We just have a
Actually,
couple more minutes. But
never
go
mind.
ahead.
The position of the planning department is they have legally complied with our regulations. That's correct.
And I believe Mr. Weddleton, you had.
A couple things. One is dealing with process, and this is to the to the Grays. We in contact with Erica McConnell. I think she has some intent to, has shown. I think the AMCO board. Okay, these comments weren't in your packet. Perhaps they should have been. She did say that the routine is when a comment is sent to them that they tell you, you also must send it to the applicant. And that may or may not have happened, but that's their current routine to do that. But there may be grounds, so there is some motion at the AMCO level, which we have no control over, to send this back to the board in July to look again. So I would suggest you get in contact with them, maybe talk to Jed after this meeting, get some pointers on that, to say, deal with it at that level. Because it sounds like you have some beefs, it should be, things that should be worked out. But then to staff, I had forgotten, I think it's closed down, but there was a church just to the east. And is that property line to property line, did you measure?
That would be front door to front door, and
Yeah, so front door from their operation.
Right.
Okay, and that's quite far then, because it's
Right.
a whole
I believe it was 600 and some feet.
Okay.
It's like Revelation Baptist Church or something.
Yeah, I think that
And
is-
there was some question as to whether or not that church was even in operation still, but it shows up on a map, it shows up under the state corporation list, so whether or not they're actually utilizing that space, it's hard to say.
Okay, I was just thinking if it was property line to property line, you might have. Shows up in the last minute. Welcome the chair.
Any questions, Mr. Rivera? We have been joined by Assemblymember Felix Rivera. Okay, Ms. Solotel.
Thank you. I was at the Taku Campbell Community Council meeting where the Grays were present. They did present the objection letters that AMCO did not have to the Community Council, and the Executive Board said that they would review them and email if they had any additional comments that they wanted to put forward. To date, no email has been received.
Sorry, and what was that mean?
Last week.
Okay, so it's very recent.
After they.
It was after the resolution. They said they didn't feel comfortable changing the resolution, especially since they would not be meeting again, but that they would review the comments, and if there was anything terribly concerning, that they would email.
I just want for the recording, we do have copies of 7 letters of objection that I think were emailed to all of us previously, so they're all printed out, so we've got these in front of us. Does the applicant have? Did you get a copy of all the letters of objection?
To the last meeting, or we mailed them to the Maryland mailbox, so I printed them out
There you go.
the last meeting. I have them.
And to be fair, there is an 8th objection that may not be in an email packet that I received just in the last week. It is in that packet.
I have Mr. Dunbar and then Mr. Gates.
So I guess this is a question to planning staff and then to also the folks who submitted these letters of objection. Several of these letters of objection refer to 3 AAC 306-360 within 1,000 feet of the perimeter of all these facilities. But my understanding is that is the Eagle River ordinance? Because for us, I believe it's 500 feet in the municipality, not 1,000.
That's a state regulation.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, they're talking about advertising. That's the advertising regulation, so they're confusing the fact that packaging.
Oh, okay, I got
they think
it.
that packaging and labeling is a
Advertising.
form of advertisement, and it's not.
Gotcha. Advertising, my fault.
Thank you. Mr. Gates?
Well, I have 2 things, if I may. So the emails that Mr. Willington was mentioning, I see that they're here in front of our committee, but I don't think they're part of the packet that's before the assembly or assembly agenda. So these wouldn't be seen by the rest of your colleagues that are here today, just this committee. If you wanted to have them for the rest of the body, there needs to be some sort of AM and IM thing. We have these as well. So I just wanted to give you that sort of heads up. And then with regard to that 1,000 foot for advertising, it's a little interesting because the states changed their regulations not long ago. And I think it was October. So new regulations changed the advertising section. We have a corresponding code provision about advertising, not advertising, but 1,000 feet. And it's not the separation distance, the planning function, it's just advertising. But the state's regulation has a subsection A that our code doesn't have. We said reserved. So I don't know what was supposed to be there before, but from last October, the state's regulation for signs, merchandise, advertisements, and promotions in 3 AAC 306-770. A says business cards and merchandise, including t-shirts, hats, and stickers that are distributed by a licensed marijuana establishment and contain only the business name, logo, license name, location, contact information. are not advertising and promotions. So those things, I think, are within that 1,000 foot restriction according to the state regulation from last October. Our code doesn't say that though, so there's a little incongruence here. We also have a preemption provision that says we need to be consistent with the state regulation. We can be more restrictive. So maybe our code, that provision is more restrictive. It's an interesting situation because the law has been changing constantly. Our code limits all the time. Regulations have been shifting the past couple of years. So.
Not helpful. We need to wrap up here pretty quick, so.
I was
Dr.
gonna
Gray.
reply to that. This would be the only business where hats, shirts, product with your logo and name on it would not be considered advertising. Any other business out there, that goes into your advertising budget or marketing budget. So it's a disconnect.
And one last thing, she said that she was in Unit 2 and 3, and the public notice on the, I have a picture of it, posted on the door only says for Unit 2.
That's where the retail sales were.
But we're 4, and you posted it right next to us.
On 3.
You can only go by what we were told is like legally represented as.
All right, thank you. So this committee needs to, unless there's any other last minute questions at this point, we need a recommendation of some sort.
We don't need
but or a recommendation not to recommend. I guess is the way I'm stating it.
I'll move to recommend.
I'll second.
What, point of clarification, with the conditions we discussed, the additional conditions that we're gonna add to it?
Well, right, so we need to see perhaps maybe, we don't have the amendment actually before us today, so maybe it's better not to do recommendation. And let's wait to see the actual text of the amendment.
With the amendment.
And then
Right,
let's have this
okay.
debate on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead. Okay, you do have okay.
Sort of. No, I agree with that. I think we had 2 conditions. One was the roof going up, and another would discuss odor, so we'll get those. But I would make if we can make a recommendation to ask Dean to prepare an AM to enter these objections. Yeah, sorry. We're just waiting. We want 2 amendments, and I think staff said they could do it. One is for extending the wall, and were you on the email exchange on how to word that?
It was forwarded
Bob
to me,
Dole
so-
done it, so you have the wording for
Mr. Chairman, that wording, I wasn't actually wording, but we'll work with Brian.
something.
Put it into plain
It
English.
was better than what I had. So there's something.
Full barrier.
No, it gets way more technical than that. An engineer can. So, at any rate, so the wall and then the odor, which would really just to say talk about the state law already requires it, but we might put that wording in there regarding odor outside of the unit. So those 2 amendments. So that's already going to be done, but I would maybe as a committee is ask Dean to prepare an AM to enter these comments into the record.
I agree with that.
And we'll take care of that now. So.
I just want to make sure that we're not going to do a recommendation, but that doesn't mean, I want to make sure that when we're doing our committee reports, we don't imply that means that we don't, we're staying neutral, essentially. It's not, we're not saying this should be rejected. We're staying neutral. We'll have the debate at the Tuesday meeting, and we'll have this on the record and the amendments to go off of. Just want to make sure it's a shared understanding.
Thank you. Noted. Okay. Then if there's nothing else on this item, I would say that we are adjourned. All right, thank you, everybody.